Coming up on That's a Great Point.
There literally the limit does not exist. There is not an end to how successful we can be at being us.
Exactly. It's infinite. It's beautiful. It's amazing.
Why not pursue that? Why? I mean, it almost feels crazy to pursue these limited. When I think about the things that were important to me and that were success markers for me for my whole life, they are so limited. Why not? Why 100 million? Why not 100 billion? Why not 100 trillion? Like, why not? They're so limited. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, so to give you an idea of Michelle, if you look at her microphone, it is incredibly well dented from by how many times she drops that sucker. It's Have you climbed the ladder of success? You earned the degree, you got the acronym behind your name, you got the fancy job title, you landed the career, and you still can't help but think, man, this is not all I hoped it would be. On today's episode of That's a Great Point, we have special guest JJ Littrell, and our topic is redefining success. Our topic today was inspired by a recent conversation between Alina and JJ. JJ shares with us how that conversation not only helped her be more productive at work, but it also allowed her to relax and enjoy picking up her kids from school. We explore how our need to be successful keeps us from leading a fulfilled life. If you consistently hit your goals and still feel like something is missing, or you have everything in life you need to be happy and still aren't, and you might feel just a little bit guilty about that, today's episode is for you. And look, Alina and Michelle didn't think I can get that all in one take. I showed you. If you find our content helpful, please share it with somebody you love. Thanks for playing along. Enjoy. Welcome to That's a Great Point, the attitude adjustment for your soul, where co-hosts Alina Doran, Michelle Albers, and Lee Smart discuss deep topics around a life well lived. Let's start the show. Good times. Good times.
Hey.
Welcome in, JJ.
Hi, Lee. It's good to see you. And Michelle, we've never met. Hi.
We have not. Hi, nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
I love how lives cross and we all come to this one point of nexus. It's so cool.
It is cool. Okay, so Michelle, what's your connection?
I met Lee in a community that we were both in, and through Lee, I met Alina.
Very cool. Same.
I met and so Alina it begins.
Through a community, and then Lee came to an event there.
Nice. That's right. That's right. And then you and I met in another community, JJ, 2 years ago.
Yeah. Has it been? It's more than 2 years, surely. Maybe not.
Isn't it shocking? It feels way, way longer, but it's only been just a little over 2 years.
Wow.
It was January 23. What's that?
That's how you know it's a good connection and meant to be, when it feels like you've known each other for lifetimes.
Way longer. Yeah.
It's been for, I think both of us, it's been an entire lifetime since January of 23.
Yeah.
Yes. I think we have lived a whole life. Yeah.
We have lived. Yeah, that's right. It's like we were both like corporate Barbies.
We were. And then I gave the middle finger April 30th, and you were not that far.
So what's funny is, right, well, one of us gave a middle finger and one of us left. Fingers down.
Yeah.
But amazingly, same time. Right around spring, summer, fall. Wow, months just meld. Yes, both 2023. So we started in this very like rigid environment, right? We started, well, probably our careers and when we met.
Yes, fair. I literally was just thinking, I was like, no, it's 22. It's 22. It has to be 22. And then I'm like, oh, wait, no, today's 25. We're in 2025 now. Turns out.
Well,
Well, good to
amazing.
see you guys. Tell me how this rolls, and I'm just excited to be here.
One thing real quick, you know how you can know how to date yourself is whenever you start realizing whenever some of your favorite albums were created, they were created like 30, 40 years ago,
Yeah.
and you can remember whenever they came out, and then you go, oh, God, that stings.
It's weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
To have
So,
memories that are and friends that are 20, 30 years old. It's like, how could that be?
mhm,
Right?
mhm.
Am I not 25?
I'm 28 actually, and I'm just that's my perfect year, and I'm just gonna stick with it.
Oh, see, you're doing better than me. I chose 15. I think it might have been
Okay.
unintentionally. Oh,
I've lost count of how many annual 39th birthdays I've had.
Yeah. It's good.
Hmm.
You just keep having them.
And Friday, my son's going to be 27, and that seems humanly.
Oh,
See, that's when it gets tricky is when the kids start catching up and you're like,
Right.
well, does the math work?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We had a long period where my mom stayed with 18 and then I was older.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's weird. It's fine.
math doesn't have to always math.
We're all in the matrix. It's not a big deal.
That's right.
Time is very irrelevant. It's all just a construct.
It's all just a construct, which is a beautiful segue. But before we start,
Yeah.
what a nice segue.
I know.
So I think JJ was on the guest list. We may have very briefly talked about it. The structure is it's very free flowing. We have a topic, and at the end, as we're talking about redefining success, we have a segment at the end where we give our top 3
Perfect.
on the topic.
The thing. Perfect.
it's basically just a way to create highlight clips and to get our points out without. So we typically like to have a discussion that's open amongst us.
Cool.
And if you have anything prepared that you want to say, then you have a time to get up and monologue for a little while. So we've got the best of both worlds.
I'll riff like as we go. I'll get into a thing but I don't have any like set. I want to be sure to cover this thing or anything like that.
Perfect. Perfect.
That's how we roll.
All right, Alina,
All right.
take the lead. I dare you.
I dare you.
I triple dog dare myself.
Mhm.
No pressure or anything, but if you get this wrong, I will be disappointed.
This is the most important. This is the only thing that will matter,
Well, how appropriate as we're going to talk about success.
Yeah.
right? That's right.
Your disappointment.
Or disappointment. Dearly beloved, we gather here today to talk about redefining success. So from early childhood through school, often through our professional life, what makes for success is defined on our behalf over and over and over. And that's we're conditioned, we're initiated nursery school for some of us earlier. What does good look like? What does successful look like? It can look like following instructions. It can look like being obedient. It can also look like being, civilized, polite, respecting other people. And then it goes on and on. It looks like grades. It looks like being promoted to the next grade, then promoted to the next school and the next school. And then depending on where we live and how we're raised through college and, success there are numbers attached to success in our grade point average, in our compensation, in our promotions, in where we are included, where we might not be included. And so over and over and over for much of our working lives, through our working lives, success is defined on our behalf. And often there comes a point in every grown adult's life. There comes a point where we start to question, am I living, how am I defining success? Do I think this is successful? Do I agree? What is mine and what is not, and what's not for me? And the topic came a few weeks ago when JJ and I were on our regular catch up, and it organically happened. JJ, do you want to talk about what that was like?
Yeah, well, we often have these moments together where we're kind of riffing on things, and then we're like, man, like that was really profound. And we came away from that conversation just talking about this need to have these certain marks of success that we have found, whether it's corporate ladder, whether that's numbers, bank account balances, whatever it may be. And you and I had this conversation, and I realized I actually have this whole different measure of success right now. And I want that to be my North Star. I want that to be where I land. But I was really struggling with making that okay, with that being a completely different measure than I've ever used before in my life. Could that be okay? And we left the conversation, and I felt so at peace, and I felt so calm, because rather than having titles and different status symbols that I could go to a party and share, there were really core values of mine that I was seeing an opportunity to align with. And I thought, oh, that actually feels better. And I had never really taken the time to break it down like that. And like you just beautifully described, like, where did these things come from? Where did these constructs of success, did I define them or did others? And I realized for the first time in my teen years, we were just teasing about how old we are. For the first time, I said, oh, what if I defined success for me? And is it okay for that one to change? Is it okay that it used to be what it was? Because that was another thing, right? Oh, how shameful that I have used these markers of success in the past. I should have always been aligned with my values. But rather, no, this is great that I'm able to have this conversation now, take this values-based approach, and then I can work through what that looks like and defining that for this season of my life. And it's okay to change that. It's okay to evaluate that. But I think for so long, I was just blinders on this is what I've been told it looks like, and this is how I have to make it look. That conversation with us just really opened my eyes to, actually, I'm incredibly successful right now, perhaps more than I've ever been, because I'm living in this alignment as opposed to on this ladder.
Ooh, goosebumps. Goosebumps.
What is that new metric for you, if you don't mind sharing?
I don't mind at all. So previously, I have a corporate finance background. So I have worked in large consulting firms. I've worked in large Fortune 500 companies where there was this very defined ladder of success. And I had really pinned my value of success based on how I was measuring against those metrics. And I took the leap out of corporate almost 2 years ago, and realized that when there isn't that defined ladder in front of you, you have to grasp for other things. And so I was still trying for the last 18 months or so to continue to put myself and my success and my peace in this space that no longer existed. So I was trying to create these ladders and these things. And I can't tell you how many spreadsheets I put together of projections for my business and, all the goals and things that I had around status and numbers and all these things. And I realized I'm actually in a phase of life. I have small children. What I really value is being an evolved person for myself, but also available for them. So am I able to evolve as a corporate person into an entrepreneur and at the same time be available for them? And what I realized was that's actually the most perfect combination for me to feel successful. I want to be able to pursue things for me. I want to be able to pursue purpose. I feel like I'm making a difference in the work that I'm doing, and I want to pursue that passionately. But I also want to pick my kids up at 3:00 every day. So can those two things exist together? And I think in most of the constructs that I have tried to measure myself against for so long, the answer was absolutely not. If I had looked at, bosses and authority figures over the years and said, hey, how I'd like to be measured this year is how many times I was on time to pick up my kids from school, they would have laughed at me. And they would have said, actually, it's the opposite. How many times you're on time picking up your kids, we're going to take a dock down, right? And I get to now go, oh, that's actually my new measure of success, is that I get to do these things with my family. And that's just one small example. But being able to be in a space where I can do both, and I'm not measuring that anymore by the number of leads I'm closing and by the number of deals I'm getting done and by the number of promotions I'm getting or the bonus structure. Those things are now not how I measure success. And it's a major shift. for me, but it's been beautiful. We just had this conversation a few weeks ago, and I have felt so at peace. I have felt so much more available to pursue the things that are important to me. There's a lot of things. Many of us probably have a list of things that we want to do and pursue in our lives, and we prioritize other things. And this alignment where success is actually my prioritizing my values has allowed me to approach things in a different way than I otherwise haven't done. And seeing again new measures of success. For example, I have to go to the gym, right? And I have to squeeze it in. And it takes so long and it's so far away. And I've completely reframed that to, I'm so excited that I get to go do this for myself and that I have this space and time and that I'm able to, I went to the gym this morning and then I was able to take a call and I was still in my gym clothes. And that now is success for me versus I would have been at an office in a chair, ready to go at 7:30 in the morning previously. And that would have been success because I was checking the box that I walked through the door at that time versus now I get to really luxuriate in the idea that I got to go to the gym this morning as opposed to like roll my eyes and I had to do this thing. And that gets to now be a value that I can hold versus this thing I have to do or isn't annoying that I didn't get to, or I have to go at 5 a.m, or I have to go at 8 o'clock at night. I get to now define that for myself, which was the whole purpose of taking this leap and making this massive shift in my life. But I was still trying to shove what that used to look like. I was trying to keep that construct with this whole new thing. And those two things weren't working well together. And I was feeling friction, and I have felt much less friction now that success has been redefined.
Isn't that amazing? A whole different set of metrics.
Yeah.
You could still build a spreadsheet. Like you can take the girl
100%.
away from the spreadsheets, can't take the spreadsheets away from the girl.
That's right.
You could still build a model with all the indicators of success.
Yeah.
They're now just yours and meaningful.
Yes.
And this is what we were talking about a few weeks ago, this small but really not small thing of JJ picking up her kids on time.
Yeah.
Consistently. That is a big sticking point for a lot of working parents.
Yeah.
Right? And I used to say this to my parents. I used to lament when my kids were a little bit younger that I wasn't spending the time with them. I wasn't seeing them after school. Mm-hmm. Because, and a lot of those years were spent in, corporate finance, worked on an IPO. So a lot of intense late hours, weekends. And I was lamenting that I was missing my, hours of my kids' lives that I wouldn't get to replay and see. And I used to lament that the most important time in a young child's day when they're not in school is those first couple hours when they come home. Mm-hmm. Right? Like that 3 to 5, 4 to 6 time frame when they actually want to share what happened that day. Yeah. Because a few hours later, they're done. They're exhausted.
Right.
And they're kind of, they turn into like tired little zombies. Yeah. Right. Or rebelling, like not wanting to go to sleep, whatever it is. But it's those couple hours right after school and late afternoon that I used to call the golden hour of that's the time. And I didn't get to have that. And didn't get to have that until just a couple years ago. Right. When I started my own thing on my own terms.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It's funny. I'm like, I feel myself kind of like folding in as we're talking about this. And I'm like, how embarrassing to be on this podcast and talking about success. A metric of my success is picking up my kids from school. And like, that is the programming that I still have in my head is like, I need to tell you guys the big titles that I've had and the big things that I've won. And I want, everyone to hear these things. And I'm like, is it okay that I can still be the super successful person and pick up my kids from school and allow that to be a measure of success? And it is a war that is happening in my body right now as we're talking. But part of, I think the switch flip for me is I think sometimes as we pursue things and it's always the next thing, right? Have we ever gotten a promotion that we were like, oh, finally, I've arrived. This is it. No, we want the next, the biggest, the whatever. There's no bonus that we get. There's no deal that we close that's the thing. So it is a moving target always. But I think sometimes I have found I have the thing and I don't even get to enjoy the thing because I'm working on the next, or I don't put the value on the thing. And for me, the picking up of the kids. Anytime I would talk to someone, how's it going being a business owner? How do you like being an entrepreneur? First thing I would say, oh, it's so great. I get to pick my kids up every day. Best part. And my kids at one point, my son, he's 11, he said, Mom, I know what the worst part of your day is. And I was like, interesting. Tell me, what is the worst part of my day? And he was like, oh, it's when you pick us up from school. And I was like, I am on record talking about how much I love picking you up from school. Like, what are you talking about? And he was like, well, we have to rush to get home and you're worried about getting on the next call. And sometimes you're on the phone when you pick us up and, it interrupts your day and, you have to stop doing what you were doing to come pick us up. And so that's the worst part of your day. And it was this cold water in my face of like, whoa, this thing that I had placed so much value on, I wasn't even enjoying because I didn't think it was an appropriate measure for me. And so I wanted it and I knew I wanted it. I told people I wanted it and I wanted it to be a thing. But until I really realized that it was allowed to be a measure of success and it could be this thing that I valued and that I protected, I was treating it like this chore that I had to get through. And I wasn't even enjoying it. I've been picking up my kids now almost 2 years. And the last, 18 months of it, I didn't get to actually enjoy it because I had these other measures of if I'm on so many calls a day or if I'm doing these other things, that's more important and that's what I need to focus on. And I was throwing this thing aside that was actually the most important piece. And so it's really been this powerful reframe for me of sometimes we have these things in our lives that we don't even realize we wanted and we have, and we're not allowing ourselves to really enjoy the full experience of it because it's not this traditional measure of success. And in fact, it's what we wanted the whole time. So that's been a huge, huge eye opener for me.
Your internal judge is quite a strong one.
Oh yeah, she's fierce. Which is probably true for many of us.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that piece that you mentioned earlier on about you get to rather than have to. Mm-hmm. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in my 3 points later, but it's like this idea of running from, running to, or just running. Oh. Right? Like at first, sometimes we're running from out of desperation, mm-hmm. or we can run to something aspirational, mm-hmm. but the very tip of the top of it is like inspirational, running just for the fun of it, running because we enjoy it, and how that's such a better way to exist overall. Mm-hmm. Michelle, it looked like you had something loaded up, ready to roll.
That's like so transparent in my face. I just heard two really big things in what you were saying, and your energy changed as you were talking about it, which was really cool. It's like when you were talking about sort of the old ways, you didn't have this lightness and like joy in your voice. And then as you went on, it was like, there it is. There's the freedom, the space that she created when she found alignment. So it's like alignment was one of the big key pieces that I heard in what you said. And alchemy is the other. And I like alchemy better than balance because balance implies kind of 50-50. And I think alchemy is like all the pieces and parts come together to be aligned with like who you are and how you show up. The other really big thing I heard in what you were saying is you used to, and I might be wrong, this is just my interpretation, so this is what I love about conversations. You used to focus your success on your doing, and now it's about your being.
Absolutely.
And that's so huge because I think we get like, yes, having the job and being successful in your job so you can keep doing your job, whether it's aligned with like your being, it's still the means to an end and it gets you other things for your being. So it's like, I think sometimes everyone believes, your job has to be your purpose. It's like, it doesn't. Mm-hmm. But you have to have a job or a means to an end so that you can be in your purpose. But it's not always, I think sometimes we get super zoomed in on it has to be my career. I don't know. I just heard a whole picture with you in that whole thing that you were talking about. The alchemy within it was really beautiful, and the progression of where your mindset was and what it's morphing into and still becoming is really awesome.
I hadn't framed it, the do be, and I love that because we can only do so much and it's never going to be enough. Like we meant, there's always the next thing. There's the next rung. There's the next level. There's, how much is enough? And it's like, I'll tell you tomorrow. And the being, you can sit in now. Mm-hmm. You can enjoy that now. That can be whole today versus the doing. There's always something else to do. That's so beautiful. And I thank you for that frame because I love that. And wouldn't we all love to have success in our being as opposed to our doing? Like, I can't think of a better measure of success than not having to do the next thing and continue to step that ladder versus being in that space. I love that. Thank you for that frame.
Thanks for sharing the story. It was great.
It's beautiful. There's a through line that I'm hearing from this conversation, and the words that are in my ear right now is permission granted. Over and over and over. Permission granted. Grant yourself, right? You're granting yourself the permission to even take a look at who you are and who you need to be, what the best part of you is, right? You have the judge, the fierce judge in your ear.
Yeah.
And then you have your wisest self somewhere nearby. Giving yourself permission to pause and giving yourself permission to look and observe with eyes open what's there. And then permission to challenge all the definitions that come not just from bosses and, foreign agencies like outside of our home, but they come from our own loved ones.
Absolutely. Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Like what success is. So giving permission to challenge and permission to be and permission to do.
And I think that's a great point. Just because you feel successful being up.
That's how the name of the podcast came to be.
There it is.
Sorry.
I didn't even mean to. But it's such a great point that, and Michelle said this earlier with the alchemy, the being and the doing are not, they're not one or the other. This is not a zero-sum game. This is, we can do while we be. So this permission granted of, it's also not bad that I want a level of success in what I'm doing outside of who I'm being. Those two things are not bad. And I think sometimes we get this polarizing narrative that, if I'm happy in who I am, then I can't also want to pursue these things. And I think that alchemy is so beautiful of actually by being who I want to be and having success in who I'm being, likely I will be able to do even more and create even larger impact because I'm coming from this place of alignment and of value-driven being that then supports the doing. So it's not one or the other. And I love that. Permission granted. Thank you.
I'm actually wondering if you can speak to what it is you thought you might have happen whenever you finally got there. Like looking back on it now, whenever you were aiming for the title, for the money, for that next big deal, can you speak to what it was you were aiming to get?
Well, I hadn't thought about it until now, but the answer came very clearly. We're gonna get a little therapy language here, but I think it's acceptance. I want people to like me. I want people to want to be around me and to think highly of me. And so the next thing makes it and again, some of this programming from inside and outside of my home, this next thing made me more likable, more approachable, more interesting, the doing. Which, in fact, I think if we could all agree, being is way more interesting and way more magnetizing than doing. But that was what it was. It was acceptance. It was getting more people to think highly of me and to give me that praise for the doing, because I could markedly say I made this grade, I did this thing, and I wanted people to accept and like me for that. And that's what I was going to get for it.
I love how quickly you put that together. It's like a look at me, look how special I am. Hey, was somebody please look at me?
That's right.
I'm lovable, I promise.
Exactly. And you don't have to, and I don't have to expose who I am. I can just show you what I did. Because if you don't like who I am, that's really painful. But if you don't like what I did, it's no problem because I can close a bigger deal tomorrow. I can get the next promotion next week. I can go make the extra money. I can go do the thing. So that's okay. If you don't like me for that, because I can change that. I can do something different here. If you just don't like me for me, ooh, that's a different level of vulnerability and hurt that you could expose me to. So if I just pile up the doing, then we can just work over here in this space and I can keep this totally safe.
Right.
Thank you, Lee. This is new for me.
What's new for you?
Thinking about this way. Oh, yeah. This is deep. Thanks, guys.
I'm imagining like collecting badges, right?
Yeah.
Checking the check boxes and collecting badges.
Yeah.
Is this not enough badges for you? I can do more.
More's good. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm collecting a green one tomorrow.
Yeah.
Will you like me more then?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm curious since that conversation we've had in the last few weeks, what has been emerging for you?
Great question. The first word that came to mind was just peace. I have felt so much peace about what I'm doing, where I'm going, how I'm approaching it. I want everything faster, bigger now. And since our conversation, I've realized like time is passing very quickly anyways. I don't need to try to speed any of this up. It has actually been beautiful to have a slower time frame and to really feel like I'm in the moment, a lot more present. So peace and presence, I think, are the two things that I have really felt. One thing that I just realized as I was talking about that, I think that's also when we hung up the phone, the first thing I wanted to do was call my business partner and tell him about this revelation I just had, about how my life is perfect and I'm so happy and everything's good and whatever's happening over here is fine. And I actually haven't shared it with that many people. I haven't had that conversation with him because it isn't something I have to show. It's not something I have to get out and dance around and present to people like a new business card. I just get to be and live and experience and have the joy in my life for me. It's not for anyone else. It's not for, I don't get to go update my LinkedIn profile with like, February 2025 major, life revelation moment. It's just for me. And that is new. I am used to, again, I got the badge, I got the thing. Let me go run around and show you and post it. And I'm not a huge poster, but I want to show everyone and get that recognition and that accolade. And to have this major shift and just be like, okay, that's for me. And I just get to now live in that peace. That's been major. That's so different. So different than any of the doing.
That's beautiful. And for me in my personal practice, when I find I'm thinking about things and feeling about things in the way you just described, that's how I know it's my being and aligned and for my best and highest good. And I find sometimes I'll dance and like do throw it out there. And what happens when I decide to share it is it loses energy and it gets muddy because the ego comes in stronger and it gets in the way. And so it's like to keep it as your sacred bubble that you get to choose how you engage with it and when and if you decide to share it. Like this feels different to me. You're not sharing it for a purpose of like approval or receiving some sort of like a yay, you did it. You're sharing it for the purpose of like really being vulnerable and revealing who you are on a podcast, which is a totally different energy.
Yeah.
And I just think it's such a beautiful thing when like you just described a sacred ritual, that's what I would call it, for yourself, that is like that amplifies well, so I'll use the word success, even though that wouldn't be the word I would use for that, but that amplifies success of the thing that is aligned with like you.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. I love that. I love that you were called to keep it sacred. That's just amazing.
And it was unintentional. I didn't really realize it until and our patterns are so good and so strong, and we create these things in our lives, right? So my first thought was, how does this impact my business? And let me go, like, again, work up the spreadsheet, right? How does this change things? As opposed to just going, no, this is just your life, JJ. This is just what we're doing. And this is just how this works. And this is just a new perspective, as opposed to something that I have to go model out and spreadsheet on.
Right. And getting into the more concrete, building on what we're talking about right now, there is the doing. And to be a business owner, you need to keep doing. The being, right? It's the being and the doing at the same time. It's absolutely not mutually exclusive. If we, right, if we like overdo it on the being, then we're sitting around, pontificating and hiking all day and not getting any doing done. So like, right, the being at some point needs to join forces with the doing so that like your toilet is clean and your fridge has groceries.
Right.
So it has to get concrete at some point, and it sounds like a slowing down in a business sense can allow you to speed up.
Oh, absolutely. Sharpening the axe, right? I mean, that's what we're doing here is if the whole adage, right? If you only have 8 hours to chop down as many trees, you spend the first 6 sharpening the axe. And I think we forget that's the being. That's who we are bringing to the doing makes the doing so much more powerful. And I didn't connect it until what you just said. We had this conversation on a Friday morning. That following Monday was the most productive day of my business that I have probably had in 2 years. I mean, I was on fire, and I didn't put that together until just now. I knew when it was happening, and I knew looking back that day was extraordinarily potent, but I didn't put together that it was the first work day back from after our conversation. And I can't help but think that it is that when you are, when I spent that time and I focused on the being, the doing became just so much more powerful and less effortful. That's not a word, but it took so much less effort to show up and to produce really high quality, transformative work because I was in such alignment.
That's such a key piece. We feel like in order for something to be worth it, it has to be hard. But the thing is, when we get really fucking good at something, it becomes easy because we're so good at it. And then we can produce more than anybody else on the planet on what we're really, really good at. And it never feels like enough because it didn't have that effort behind it. But really, when we're on point and we're doing us the best that we can do it, it's so smooth. It's so butter easy.
Yeah. That friction's out. But I think, again, back to these constructs of success. And I'm not going to tell you that I don't listen to some of these finance bros on the internet that tell you to work 7 days a week and, you don't get to sleep and all the things, right? I listen to some of that stuff. But I think that's another kind of construct that we've been shoved is that, well, if it's not hard, if it didn't hurt, then it can't possibly produce something that's worth it. And I think it's actually the opposite. When you're more in free flow, when you have less friction, I do think that's where the best work happens. And just muscling your way through some things, you might get a result, but you may not get the best result. And again, we were talking earlier, like this is all make believe. We're like hurling through space on this spinning ball of rock. Like, why do it with that much effort if that's going to be so misaligned with who you are? It's more fun to do it aligned with who you are with the less friction and have that power behind you as opposed to just clawing and scraping at everything to get there. It's a lot more fun, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, well, it's so easy to lean on the black or white thinking, like it's either or. Either I'm doing the Puritan work ethic thing and I'm working really, really hard, or it's super easy and I'm just gliding through it. And it's neither, right? It's both.
It's both.
So I know whenever I'm working on a project that I'll always make it to a point where I get so frustrated I want to throw my computer through the room or through the wall, and then but that frustration is so necessary because as soon as I walk away and then come back, that's when it finally will pop.
Mm-hmm.
You get
And
those moments.
You have to reach that point of that friction to stop and go, hold on, there's got to be an easier way. Let's put wheels on this thing somehow. And if it wasn't for that friction, you wouldn't look for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad that we're talking about it's not always easy. Like, yes, less efforting, and it isn't, if you're efforting, it does not mean that it's a misaligned action. If there's pain and hardship, it does not mean that you need to exit. That doesn't have to necessarily mean that. Sometimes there's pain with purpose. When you have that conviction and alignment, and there's a challenging part, and that's what we're talking about with Lee feeling so frustrated with his laptop. But he's in it. He stays in it, right? He walks away. He takes a break. He takes care of give himself what he needs, and then he comes back to it for a little more pain because he knows that what's on the other side of that is absolutely aligned. Yeah.
Well, it's just like if we could just drop in, right, to any given, anything, any level of achievement or success, or even just a pleasurable thing. Like we like going for hikes to waterfalls. If you just helicoptered me in and dropped me on to 100 different waterfalls in a day, that's not going to be the same as hiking and feeling the burn and wondering if we're almost there and having the anticipation and being proud of myself for getting there. It's not the same. And it doesn't mean, now, again, there's hikes that may be too dangerous. There are hikes that may not lead to a place I want to be. So not every hike is the right one. But if you were just dropped in the easiest and quickest manner into anything that you wanted to experience or achieve, you actually lose, I think, a lot of the joy of the thing.
Yeah, that's like winning the lottery. Some of the most depressed people on the planet won the lottery.
That's right.
And because they never had to earn it, and they never had to really truly work their way to be grateful for what they have.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they're disconnected. Not that I would turn away a winning lottery ticket. For the record. For the record, you would not see me returning going, this is too easy. Take it back.
I will make it work with the 200 million.
I will struggle.
Yes.
Michelle.
I was just thinking about the easy. Did you have a question for me?
There's a lot. I see there's a lot brewing.
There's always a lot brewing.
Yeah. No, there's always a lot brewing.
I have like my own brewing, and then I have like the brewing. It's like it's all together. I was just thinking about like the hurt and the hard and, alignment. And it's like the hurt and the hard are required to get to the alignment, but once you're in the alignment, like that's when the ease happens. And I think the hurt and the hard are so loud sometimes that when we don't have it, it's a weird way to say it, but we almost miss it. Like, oh, well, that was so much pain and so hard. Now I feel like I'm not doing enough. When in reality, you're actually dropped into and aligned with your being, which it's okay to be easy. We think we're supposed to suffer. And is that self-worth? Is that self-love? Is that like, where does that come from? Which programming part? I don't know. It might be different for everyone, or it might be the same, because I find the more work I do, the more I realize our stories are really different, but our pain points are kind of the same. They don't feel real different. They show up very similar ways. No matter which experience happened to you, how we navigate that in our pain isn't all that different. There's only so many ways the human experience can go. And so I just find it, why do we think we have to have the pain? Why can't we just receive the ease? Because we've done the fucking work to get it. It's like we've done the hard things. And I just find it, why do we resist so hard of the receiving And it's a skill. It's a skill that we get to build, and it's unprogramming and relearning and unlearning and all of those things. It just, I don't know. I'm just in that place where it's like, I wish as humans, we didn't resist it so damn hard. So that there would be less pain in the world. And because an aligned life is A, easier, B, I mean, the reality is wherever you go, that's your pain comes with you. You can't run away from it. And so if you choose not to look at it, and if you choose to only do and never be because being is too painful, you're looking at the wrong thing, or you can't have one without the other if you want to find you. And where you started, JJ, you described all of that. Like, this is where I was, and this is where I am. And look at me becoming. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
It's interesting that friction that we have, and that maybe friction's the wrong word, the resistance that we have to the receiving that you were just talking about. I think it is in this imaginary pile of badges that we've decided we have to collect. And I can't experience this until I've done these things. Again, I think it's just a construct that's been delivered to us for a number of reasons. It serves other people, it serves other constructs. And so I think that we resist the receiving because we have tied this earning to it, and we've tied this doing to it, as opposed to we are giving and we are producing and we are allowed to receive in that, from that gift and from that production, because we have done such a good job as a society, as parents, as family members, as friends. We've done such a good job of celebrating the doing and the achievement and the, whatever that milestone may be. We don't have a lot of ways that as a society or as family that we celebrate the being.
I think about all the parenting guidance as of late, not earlier on. Some of the guidance that I've heard in parenting classes is don't, which I think is beautiful advice, don't praise your child's output, praise their effort and their character traits, right? Like, I see you worked so hard, I'm proud of you. You showed up to practice when you didn't want to. It was raining, it was cold, and you did it anyway. I'm so proud of you. As opposed to, you got 100 on your test, I'm proud of you. Or programming your child with, you're great at fill in the blank. Because one day they might stumble and they might not be great. And then who are they if they are not great?
Yeah.
But if they're the person that has grit and they're the person that shows up when they don't want to and they do the hard thing, that's something that they can fall back on, pun intended.
Because it's who they are. It's their being, it's not their doing. If they are someone who perseveres, if they're someone who shows up when it's hard, you can always go back to being those things versus winning the game, getting the high score, getting the promotion, which is so much easier sometimes to think about how we parent or how we coach, how we share. It's easier for everyone else. The mirror is really hard. But I think if we were to allow ourselves to give ourselves the same grace, and back to that defining success, is it, we all would agree, we've all read the articles, we've heard, like, of course it's better to praise your child for their effort as opposed to their outcome. But then all we do is sit over here and pile up outcomes. And we want to go over here and look at those and say that's what it matters. And I think when you think about the effort too, you're allowed to be a lot more accountable. If I can look and go, actually, I didn't try that hard. I understand why the outcome didn't happen. And I can choose to try hard, or I can say, that's not something I want to try hard at. I'm just not interested in learning to play the piano, and that's okay. Or it's not okay, and I'm going to make a change. But we get to then come over here and make that assessment, as opposed to just go, oh, well, I failed at that thing. I didn't do the thing. And then we bring down that self-worth versus, okay, but did I really try that hard? If I did, is this really something that I want? And we get to continue to make those assessments for ourselves, but easier to do externally than internally. Those mirrors are very hard to look at.
That's beautiful. And it's a beautiful point. you're talking about agency, which is kind of the opposite of victimhood.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I couldn't have done anything. It's not my fault.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the teacher inserted these new questions that they didn't teach on. I can't do anything. It's not. So you sort of absolve yourself, wash your hands clean of responsibility, as opposed to, well, what part do you have? What can you do? What can you take action on? That's a lot. There's a lot more accountability. 100%. Love that.
Noticing something else here that I want to point out, how we just started talking about how we become successful as parents. Like a lot of times when you say the word success, our mind automatically goes to money, career. And there's so many more realms that we can bring in when it comes to being successful. Like, what does it mean for me to be a successful parent? What does it mean for me to be a successful friend? On and on. I'm curious if y'all have any other categories that you can think of, like what really matters to you. Health, well, how do I become successful in my own health? What else?
In my community, a successful, daughter, to be helpful and kind and loving to my parents while honoring myself as a human being. Sure, entrepreneur. That has a whole different meaning now than it did before I started it. A whole different meaning, because there's a lot of unboxing and layering, getting through the layers of what others defined on my behalf, right? It's like peeling back layers, corporate, and deciphering where am I and where are the parts that I was told should be me, and decoupling those.
I think for me, like as you were talking about it, Lee, I was like, every category. And for me, if it's not aligned with who I am, if it's not aligned with me and how I'm made to show up, then it's not going to feel like a success to me. And it's like compassion. And the word that came in just kept coming in, compassion, like just that kindness, compassion, but it's not just for others. It has to be for me too. And I used to show up so mean to myself, and I would give at the expense of myself so I would be loved, so I would be accepted, so people would see me and go, oh, hey, she's cool, I want to hang with her. And all that did was destroy me. And so everything, teacher, mentor, guide, friend, business owner, every single thing that I do, parent, lover, right? All of it, every single thing that I do, if it is out of alignment and I'm doing it for an external reward versus coming from my soul, fuck it. It's not a success, and that's it. And that took me a long time to get there. And it's just, I think I'm a recovering perfectionist. You know what I mean? Like, perfectionism takes me down and takes me down quick, because perfectionist is a moving target, because I'm trying to be perfect for each individual that's going to see it, and it's not me. And so it's like, well, that's just a given failure, because you can't, it's impossible. I'd rather be me and limitless than a perfectionist and boxed.
That limitless word just gave me chills. Like, how beautiful. And it's true when we're not trying to check the box for someone else. We're not, like you said, that target always moves. So
it's exhausting.
Yes. And the limitlessness of being successful for us and in who we are. There literally the limit does not exist. There is not an end to how successful we can be at being us.
Exactly. It's infinite. It's beautiful. It's amazing.
Why not pursue that? It almost feels crazy to pursue these limited, when I think about the things that were important to me and that were success markers for me for my whole life, they are so limited. Why not? Why 100 million? Why not 100 billion? Why not 100 trillion? Like, why not? They're so limited. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, so to give you an idea of Michelle, if you look at her microphone, it is incredibly well dented from by how many times she drops that sucker. It's
I like that. This is true. It's funny. This is I'm just talking to a client last week about, I call it the great unboxing.
Mm-hmm.
The great unboxing. It's like taking yourself out of all the constructs and the definitions and meeting yourself and putting the old layers that don't serve you anymore aside and deciding how much of that box you want to step out and what you want to do with the box. Because it's not necessarily, trash. It might be really valuable.
Yeah.
It might be great to keep, hold on to it, decide what you want to do with it. But the key is intentionality. That's the key differentiator.
And remember, I love the visual of a box because I'm thinking like all the things you could do with a box. You can stand on a box. You can sit on a box. You could help others reach things they couldn't reach before with your box. You can break it down and use it for something else completely. There's so many visuals that I have of what that box, it's not that it's bad. And that box may have kept us safe. I know it sounds like Michelle and I maybe have some similar history here where that box protected us and that box served us. And it doesn't, like you said, you don't have to throw it away. There are probably some boxes that do need to get burned and, be done. But there are positive and good things that can come from the boxes. We can just use them in a different way.
It's such a big concept. And I don't want to ruin the surprise and describe the rest of it, but I'm sending a present to, like a gift to a client with an unboxing with an image coming out of the box. Can't say what that image is. Because that client will know.
It is.
Will know who I'm talking about, but it's the great unboxing of this person, which, by the way, all of these redefining constructs and agency that we're talking about and alignment, part of this person's unboxing is a giant career pivot with more money at either the same level or even slightly senior, which is insane, at a senior executive level. So you can get the doing and the results of the doing and the dollars and the accolades. Like badges may accompany. They definitely are accompanying that unboxing, but it's what this person wants badly. It's fulfilling. Like she understands exactly why it's happening. She intends her life to shift in certain ways, and this is the byproduct of what's happening. So it's cool. It's cool.
Very cool.
All the things.
So I'm noticing the time. It's about time we start monologuing. We'll make sure we get plenty of time in for each of us to do our thing before we got a hard stop at 1:30 the next hour. So
That actually changed for me, P.S.
Oh, did it?
I'm good.
You want to talk all day then? We can do this.
I'll talk as long as you want to talk.
This particular subject is definitely my jam. I swear I could talk about this all day. All right. You're typically up first, Alina. Care to take it?
Let's do it. So redefining success. There is so much to talk about. It's so hard to keep it to 3. Seriously, so hard to keep it to 3. All right. Let's go with number 1, permission granted. We are conditioned all our lives to ask for permission, follow the steps, stay in the lane, color between the lines. From grade school, certain decorum, there's a certain cadence that we are conditioned to follow, and then we get rewards from society, from teachers, from parents. It's what defines how we think of success. And we get patted on the head. Good boy, good girl, good job. You did it. And we go through life that way. And we go through life through college, through work. It keeps going and going, right? We get to work. There's a ladder that we are climbing. Good job. Good job. You got promoted. Great job. You got that raise. Good job. Great. You got married. You have a house with a picket fence, 2.5 children and a dog. Great. You're doing great, right? The family reunion people are talking about. Yeah, she's doing great. And so the idea is permission granted to review all the markers and the measures, where they came from, permission to change your mind, permission to set your own definition, permission to set your own pace. Some of those success steps might be what you truly want. They might be on your own schedule. They might not be on a conventional schedule. That's fine. That's included. You get to be. You get to be. You get to do from being. And so permission granted is the first idea. The next is the great unboxing. So the concept of who we needed to be all those years to fit in and to be approved of, to collect the badges of approval, to keep checking the check boxes of what society deems as success. There's a box that we live in, and that box has been filled with wonderful things possibly too. It's not all bad things. It could be filled with safety and love and kindness. Some of it might be fulfillment. Some of it might be fear of not being seen, fear of not being liked, fear of not being enough. And out of fear, we stay in the box and we do the things that we're supposed to do to be successful. And so the invitations here isn't to throw away the box, but to take a look at the box. How big is it? Does it feel confining? Do you like it? Does it feel warm and cozy in here? Or do you feel like you're having a little trouble breathing? Take a look at the box. Maybe take a peek what's outside. Do you want to walk out of it completely? Do you want to sit in it and just have your head out so that you know what else is in? That's the great unboxing. And then the third is build your own ladder. You can DIY your own ladder. I've said for years, when I started in corporate, I used to come home and tell my parents, this is not my ladder to climb. I used to cry at night because I felt like I had no way out unless I didn't want to be successful. And so climb that ladder, be a good girl and climb that ladder. And I would over and over say those words since I was 22 years old. This is not my ladder to climb. And so the invitation here is to build your ladder. You can say what the next step is to get to the success as you define it. You also get to redefine it. So those are the top three. Hard to keep it to three.
JJ, do you want to go next?
Sure, I would love to. It's funny. I had my three, and then as we had our conversation, I'm like, I've new three. I've other three, more three. So I will keep it to three. The first is that success moves as you grow. And if we continue to use the measures of success that worked for us when we were children and in our 20s and 30s, et cetera, that doesn't honor the growth that we are experiencing. So it's okay that these measures move and change, but we don't have to continue to pick up other people's versions of success. Just like Alina said, that we can build our own ladders. And it's okay that these measures and markers move, and they should, because we are evolving and we are growing as people. And so our measures of success should grow with us. And we have to continue to go back and challenge whether we've created those measures or whether we've accepted them from others and whether they serve us. My next point is if you're feeling misaligned in your success, if your success isn't feeling like you think it should, or like you want it to, should is a dangerous word. So if success isn't feeling like you want it to, go back to your values and really dig into, if you're alone in a room where no one else can judge, what is it that really matters to you? Not how will it look if you shared it with other people, but what really matters to you? And go back and align your doing and your being with those values at the front, and see if there are some shifts that you can get comfortable in to create more space in your being so that you can have more success in your doing when that success is defined by your value system. And then the third is you can use your body to check in on these things. There was parts of this conversation where there were words, there were things that made my body come in tighter, or that made my body feel expansive. We have so much power in the energy and who we are. I think sometimes I'm very, very good at disconnecting from my body, because that can be very uncomfortable, but come back to your body. How does it feel when you go to that meeting? How does it feel when you're on that call? How does it feel when you're doing that thing, when you're with that person? Check in how it physically feels for you. And again, taking that back to your alignment and creating success from there. The more we can be centered, I think, in our bodies and in our being. We talked a lot today about being and doing. If we can help our being feel more comfortable, then our doing comes with greater ease, not without friction, not without effort, but there can be greater ease. So really checking in with your body as well can be a powerful measure of how successful we are if we can feel alignment with our body as well. Michelle, you're up.
I'm up. Okay. I think I'm going to go backwards, meaning like you're ready to, maybe we have some things to look at first. You are limitless when you're aligned with you. So be bold. Be bold in claiming your success as it is unique to you. I think success is unique to each individual. So grab yours and be bold within that. That's point 3. Point 2. It's a little weird way to do it, but what are you attached to as you define your success? Where is it coming from? Is it coming from the need for external validation, or from needing to please the world, or from conditioning or programming of what you were told was successful and you just believed it without really considering if it creates, restriction in your body or space in your body? If it's space in your body and you get that light and that smile, it's yours. Like, play with it, dance. And if it brings this, like, consider why and reevaluate and get clarity. 1, oh, this is a hard one. Meet yourself. Consider who you are. Get to know yourself. So many people are afraid to look at who they really are because they're afraid of finding the traumas, the wounds, the pain points. And I can tell you, as someone who's looked at the traumas and the wounds and the pain points, it's terrifying and it's hard and it's freaking worth it. The other side of that is there is an ease, and there's a whole lot of moving parts and layers that happen when you're able and have someone to hold space with you to look at your shit. It changes everything. And that is also limitless in that it's infinite, in that it's never done. There will always be more to see that you don't like. There will always be more to find that makes you uncomfortable. But when you can see yourself and really get to know who that is, and like, take yourself on a date, ask yourself what you want. I think most of us just don't know what we want. We just know what we were conditioned to believe we want. And it's not the truth. Find your truth, find you. And don't do that alone. I cannot emphasize that enough. Like, you have to do it, and you have to be the one to be brave and bold enough to look and find that courage, and do it in a safe community, do it with safe people, and do some prep work for that. Make sure you're nurtured and nourished before you even begin to creep into those dusty corners, as Alina says. Mm-hmm. Know who you are. Success will come so much easier, and so much, like, it'll be yours when you know who that is.
I love it every time you say, this is going to be weird, but we're going to do this. It's like building the suspense. You just know something good's coming. All right. I'll shut her down. So many things to be said about success and redefining success. Narrowing it down to 3 is not going to be easy, but this is what I'll go with. The number 1 is define exactly what success looks like for you. And only you can do your own version of success. And one of the key points to this is if you don't know exactly what a winning day looks like, then you'll never be able to do enough. There will always be something else that you feel like you need to be doing. And especially as an entrepreneur, it's so hard to know that, yeah, I did this, this, and this, and I won. Now I can turn it off and go do the other stuff. All right. If you don't know what those things are, you'll never be able to do enough. So one of the metrics that I use now for having a successful day is I look at how many laughs did I have today? Because if I'm not laughing throughout the day, then it's not a successful day. So, and that's a very subjective thing. It's not actually something that's you can measure, but I know that if I'm not laughing during the day, I haven't had, like, I'm thinking about John Wooden, like, make every day your masterpiece. I haven't had a masterpiece day if I'm not cutting up and joking and laughing. So those things, even though they're not traditional metrics for success, those are the things that really make a difference. So that's number 1, is define what it is that is success for you. Number 2, look at what your motivation is. And I use this framework of running from, running to, or just running. So running from is this desperation-based motivation. It's fear-based. It's I don't have enough. I am not enough. I have to get away from the pain. And that is a phenomenal way to start running, but that motivation runs out. Because all you have to do is remove that fear, and then you quit running because, the fear's gone. I don't have anything to motivate me anymore. If you look at it from the entrepreneurial perspective, it's like, I don't have enough customers. Oh, shit, I have to market. Market a bunch. Then you get the customers in. It's like, I'm not going to market anymore. Then the customers go away. And oh, shit, I got to market again. Right? So we move it on to aspirational, this running to. This is great. This is goal-based motivation. And as long as that goal is not necessary to achieve well-being, this is a great way to run. If that goal is necessary for you, like you think that once you finally hit that finish line, then I'll finally be okay, then that absolutely can cause so much pain and so much hurt and so much frustration. Like goals are great, but our well-being cannot be predicated on achieving those goals. So we look at the very last thing, just running. Think about Forrest Gump. I just kept running. So he ran because he loved it, right? In the movie, he absolutely ran just because he loved to do it. And you imagine how much further we can get if we're doing what we love. We don't have to force ourselves to get out of bed to go do that. We jump out of bed because it's like, fuck yeah, get another one. Let's go do this thing. And that will always, always create better outcomes, a better state of being than the other forms of motivation. So that's number 2. Number 3, many people treat happiness as a destination. Once I finally get there, then I'll be happy. And happiness is not a destination. Happiness is a way to travel. And if you travel already happy, the destination you get to is going to be so much better. You think about going on vacation, and I just got to get there. Once I finally get to that vacation, I'll be able to relax. And what happens? You get to that destination, you're so frazzled from that push, got to get there, that it's hard to enjoy that vacation when you get there because you're just in that frazzled state. So if we take, like I'm using this metaphor, but it checks out in that, if we're traveling happy, we're more likely to hop off the side of the interstate and go check out some of these brown signs they have, and go and just explore different things and have adventures and be open and free. And then once we finally get to that vacation, we're already good. And it's like, oh yeah, this is nice. So that sense of well-being will take us to a destination that we could not have possibly imagined. We'll end up better off. We'll have better relationships along the way. We'll have more fun. We'll attract the serendipities to us that create even better success than we could have possibly aimed for to start with. And that I'm gonna wrap right there, because I don't want to ramble on too much, right? So JJ, I'm curious, the work that you do, how do we know that we come across somebody in our lives that could use your services? Who are we looking for?
What's cool is I serve a very specific niche. So you would run along someone who is a dentist that owns their own practice and wants to grow. And that would be someone that I would love to talk to. So very, very, very specific niche that we have. And our growth, we have a new kind of North Star for us, and it's people-powered growth. So we help support your team, we help support your patients, and then that leads to growth for your business. So that's what we do. So yeah, dentists.
Cool. So that's who.
Sorry.
What kind I'm sorry, Alina. I was just curious, what kind of problems do these people have, the dentists? What kind of problems do you help them solve?
Yeah. So the three main ways that we typically help dentists from a growth perspective. The first is the most popular, going out of network with insurance. A lot of dentists struggle with being an in-network provider and what that means for a lot of different things. And so helping dentists go out of network. Typically when dentists do that, they send a letter and they lose 40% of their patients. So we go out of network in a very different way so that you get to keep your patients. Your team is happy, your patients are happy, and your business grows as opposed to shrinks when you go out of network. So going out of network is a big one. Creating a partnership with another doctor. So bringing in additional doctors into your practice is a great way to grow, but it can be a challenge for a number of reasons. So helping you create a great opportunity for an associate to come in and then for that associate to become a partner is another way that we help grow. And then the third is time. Every doctor is busy with patients and being hands-on. We call it chairside. And it's really hard to run the aspects of your business. So we help support you by elevating your office manager. So most dental practices have an office manager, but they often have not been given the tools or the training or the information that they need to really help support the doctor. So we help elevate office managers, getting them aligned with compensation so that they can support the goals of the doctor as well as the practice and the team as a whole. So those are the three main ways that we help folks, all with a foundation of finance. So myself and my business partner are both CPAs by trade. So we start with that finance foundation and we build those programs on top of that so that you can help hold yourself and your team accountable to actual results. We hear all these crazy, you guys, I'm sure in your lines of work as well, people can create a KPI for just about anything. At the end of the day, does it actually put more money in your bank account? So let's get back down to that and then kind of work our way up to helping other people understand how they can impact making that happen. So that's what we do.
I'm hearing all substance.
Thank you.
All substance, no fluff.
No fluff. Yeah.
No fluff. If people want to find you, how would they find you?
Thank you. So we are Grow with Tuatara on all social platforms, and then growwithtuatara.com is our website. And our email is super simple. If you want to reach out to me, it's just jj@growwithtuatara. Would always love to connect with anyone. Our calendars are always open. Those are right on our website. Folks can book meetings with us, explore our programs, etc. Is all there.
Beautiful.
Perfect. We'll have a link in the show description. Where'd that name come from?
Oh, thanks for asking, because I love the name. It was a fun conversation thinking about what we wanted our business to stand for. And Tuatara is actually a lizard off the coast of New Zealand. And this lizard on the outside looks like a dinosaur. It hasn't changed really at all on the outside, but it has been studied to be one of the fastest evolving creatures on the inside. And so, similar to dentistry, we all have the same 32 teeth we've always had, but dentistry has evolved so much and it continues to evolve as a business. And so we help dentists really get comfortable with that inside evolution and helping them transform their teams and their patient experience and their practice so that they can grow, all in the spirit of the Tuatara. So that's where it came from.
Righteous.
Well done.
Sounds like we're at a good spot.
Perfect.
Anything else you want to add, Michelle?
Thanks for today. This was great. It was
Perfect.
lovely to meet you, JJ.
Very nice to meet you, Michelle. Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, it has been a pleasure. Anything else you left unsaid?
No, I want to go journal now on all the conversations we had and all the epiphanies that I had in this conversation. So I hope others listening will feel the same.
Hell yeah. All right, with that, signing off. Thank you for listening to That's a Great Point with Alina Doran, Michelle Albers, and Lee Smart. To find out more about how we can serve you, check out our links in the show description. Thanks for playing along.